The ghost of Blackbeard's ship. It begins with fire. Not the kind that consumes wood and cloth, but a fire that burns on water, unchained and impossible. For centuries, sailors along the Carolina coast have sworn they've seen it. An orange-red glow hovering over the waves, shifting, flickering, as though some infernal lantern swings just beyond reach. At first, the stories were dismissed as tricks of light, moonbeams warped by mist. But the survivors, those who stumbled ashore trembling and half-mad, tell a different tale. They say it is the ghost of Blackbeard's ship. The Queen Anne's Revenge went down in 1718, dragged into the sandbanks near Beaufort Inlet. Official records claimed the vessel was scuttled deliberately, a casualty of Blackbeard's schemes. But men who were there, sailors, soldiers, even prisoners, told another version. They spoke of a storm that rose from nowhere, winds screaming like voices, waters curling into walls that struck with fists of iron. They said the ship did not sink gently, but was pulled, torn from the surface, dragged into the deep as though claimed by something that lived beneath. And they said Blackbeard himself did not drown. His body, yes, scattered and severed, his head mounted on a pike at the mouth of the river. But his spirit, they say, remained bound to the wreckage of his ship. The deal he made with the sea was not broken by death. Some debts go deeper than flesh. From that day forward, strange lights haunted the waters. A flicker of lanterns where no ships sailed. A shadow of sails, tattered and black, moving across the horizon on nights when no wind stirred. And always the fire, a glow that danced above the waves, as though Blackbeard's beard still burned, as though the ship itself carried the flames of damnation. Generations of fishermen avoided those waters, steering wide when the glow appeared. But still, not all could resist. Wreck hunters, thrill seekers, the curious and the greedy, all drawn by the lure of Blackbeard's ghostly ship. Few returned, and those who did were never the same. They spoke of hearing drums in the fog, the rhythm of cannons that had not fired in 300 years. They saw shapes on the deck of a ship that wasn't there, men with hollow eyes, moving in silence, their mouths filled with seawater. Some swore they even heard Blackbeard's laugh, low and cruel, carrying on the wind. One survivor, a merchant captain from 1847, left an account that was later found in his sea chest after his death. He wrote that his vessel was becalmed near Beaufort, the sea flat and mirror-like, when the fog closed around them. Out of the mist came the glow, and then, he swore, the Queen Anne's Revenge itself. Not a ruin, not a wreck, but whole, sails snapping though no wind blew, its hull slick with black water, its lanterns burning with a fire that cast no warmth. He claimed the ship slid past silently, no oars, no crew save for shadows leaning over the rails. And then, as it drew abeam, a voice boomed across the waves. Not shouted, not spoken, but carried, as though the ocean itself had spoken with Blackbeard's tongue. The merchant captain never wrote what the voice said, only that it promised him he would never leave the sea. He was found dead 2 years later, drowned in his own bed, lungs filled with salt water. The phantom flame still burns today. Locals whisper about it on stormy nights, when tourists are gone and the wind howls through the marsh grass. Some call it superstition, others an omen. But those who have seen it, who have stood on the shore and watched the glow dance on the waves, know the truth. The Queen Anne's Revenge did not die with its captain. It still sails, caught between worlds, bound by a curse too strong for time to break. And those who chase it are not chasing gold, nor glory. They are chasing their own doom. The glow on the horizon draws them in like moths to a flame. From afar, it looks harmless, just a shimmer, a soft light bending across the waves. But the closer a man sails toward it, the more wrong the world becomes. The air thickens, the stars vanish, and the sea grows silent, as if every living thing has fled from what lies ahead. Then, through the shifting fog, the black sails appear. They are not torn or ragged as history insists they should be. No, they hang full and proud, catching a wind no mortal feels, stretching like wings across the ghostly horizon. But they are not cloth. Sailors who returned swear the sails were woven of something else entirely. Shadows, smoke, or perhaps the very night itself, stitched together with threads of flame. When the moonlight touches them, they ripple, not with fabric's movement, but like the surface of water disturbed from below. And the crew, if crew is what they can be called, stand beneath those sails. Dozens of figures move across the deck of the Queen Anne's Revenge, their forms cloaked in dripping tatters. At first they look human, sailors at work, shadows pulling ropes, pacing the rails, climbing rigging. But when the fog parts, their true faces are revealed. Hollow eyes, skin pale and stretched thin, mouths that open only to pour water, endless water, down their chests. They work in silence, bound not by duty but by damnation. Sailors unlucky enough to pass too near say the ship follows them. It does not drift aimlessly as a ghost should. It hunts. Lanterns burn along its deck, each one flickering with fire that smokes but never dies, guiding it through the mist. And if the sails rise against the sky, if the prow cuts the waves toward you, there is no escape. The sea itself will carry you into its wake. The legends are thick with accounts of men who vanished this way. Ships swallowed whole, never seen again, their names forgotten except by grieving widows. But sometimes survivors made it back. Broken men, half mad, their voices shaking as they spoke of what they saw. One fisherman from 1892 returned alone in a boat meant for 8. His eyes were bloodshot, his lips cracked with salt, but he clung to life just long enough to tell his story. He said the Queen Anne's Revenge rose from the fog behind them, black sails stretched wide, closing the distance with a speed no wind could grant. His crew scrambled to flee, but the water around them turned against them. The waves rolled not away from the phantom, but toward it, as if the ocean itself dragged them closer. Lantern light engulfed them, casting shadows not their own across the deck. And then the dead came. Figures leaned from the rails, arms outstretched, their fingers dripping seawater. Their mouths opened, spilling brine, and from the darkness came a roar. Not a voice, not words, but the sound of cannons. Cannons that shook the air without smoke, without iron, yet tore holes through the sails of the living. The fisherman said he watched his mates taken one by one, each pulled into the water by hands that did not feel solid, hands colder than ice, leaving nothing but bubbles. When the last man disappeared beneath the surface, he swore he saw the captain himself, Blackbeard or what was left of him. A towering figure at the helm, his beard wreathed in phantom flame, his eyes glowing like coals buried deep in a hearth. He lifted his blade, and the fisherman knew then that death had spared him not out of mercy, but as a warning. He died 2 days later, babbling that he could still hear the sails above his bed. To this day, mariners crossing Beaufort Inlet will not sail when the fog thickens. They fear the glow, the sound of phantom drums, the silhouette of black sails rising where no ship should be. For once the Queen Anne's Revenge appears, the sea itself will carry you into its shadow, and there are no charts that can guide a man out again. When the Queen Anne's Revenge went down in 1718, many believed it was simply another pirate ship swallowed by sandbanks and bad fortune. But those who knew Blackbeard, those who sailed under his command, whispered a darker truth. He had struck a bargain, one too terrible to break. It is said that Blackbeard feared nothing in life except obscurity and death. Gold and rum would fade, songs would rot in sailors' throats, but he craved eternity. The sea gave it to him, though not in the way he dreamed. On the eve of his final battle, Blackbeard is said to have walked the deck alone. His beard braided with lit fuses that hissed and smoked, eyes fixed on the black horizon. He poured offerings into the waves, blood from his own palm, coins snatched from his hoard, the tongue of a prisoner who begged for release. The crew dared not question him, for the water itself seemed to swell with every gift. And when dawn came, he fought with the strength of 10 men, as though something monstrous lent him its rage. It took 5 musket balls and 20 sword wounds to cut him down. But still, the body rose, striking until it was severed from its head. Even then, men swore the corpse walked, fighting, bleeding, refusing to die. The curse did not end with his fall. The Queen and's revenge sank soon after, but witnesses swore it did not sink like any vessel they had seen. No storm dragged it down. No fire consumed it. Instead, the ship folded into the waves, its lanterns burning even as the sea swallowed them whole. And in that moment, a shadow passed across the sun, as though the ocean itself had claimed the vessel for its own. From then on, every ship that braved those waters carried stories back to port. Drums in the fog, cannon fire without smoke, the sight of tattered sails rising over the horizon, moving faster than any gale could drive them. The Queen and's revenge was no longer wood and rope. It had become something else, part wreck, part phantom, part curse. But the most frightening tales were not of the ship itself. They were of what followed in its wake. Sailors described hearing chains dragging beneath the water, too deep to be seen, rattling endlessly like anchors tied to the bones of the damned. Fishermen pulled up nets filled not with fish but with splintered timber soaked in brine, blackened as though burned. Sometimes, tangled within the ropes, they found coins marked with the serpent symbol Blackbeard had carved into his chest. And always, those who touched them died within the month. Drowned in bathtubs, wells, even on dry land, water filling their lungs without warning. It was said that the ship carried its crew still, bound to serve forever. Men who had laughed, drank, and killed under Blackbeard's banner now pulled ghostly ropes and raised cursed sails. But worse still, they were hungry. Not for food, not for rum, but for the living. Every sighting of the ship ended the same way, with missing sailors, missing ships, names lost to the endless silence of the ocean floor. The Queen and's revenge no longer belonged to Blackbeard alone. It belonged to the abyss, a floating graveyard, cursed to hunt until the sea itself released it. And the sea does not release. For centuries, the phantom sails have risen, the cursed cannons have thundered without fire, and the flames of Blackbeard's beard have burned across the horizon. They say the ship does not drift aimlessly, chooses. Those who sail too close, those who dare to follow the glow are marked. The curse of the Queen and's revenge is not that it haunts the seas. It is that it is always hunting. And when the fog closes around you, when the lanterns appear in the mist, it is already too late. The fog comes without warning. One moment the sea is clear, stars reflected like shattered glass across the surface. The next, a darkness rolls in. Not white mist, not the natural fog mariners know, but black, heavy, suffocating. It crawls across the water like smoke spilling from a dying fire, and once it wraps a ship in its coils, there is no horizon, no sky, no escape. It is within this darkness that the voices begin. At first, they are faint, whispers that might be mistaken for the creak of timber or the slap of water against the hull. But soon they grow louder. Layered voices, dozens at once, speaking in tongues both known and long forgotten. Some laugh, low and guttural, like the sound of rumbling waves against rocks. Others weep, high-pitched and broken, as though mourning a fate worse than death. But the most chilling are the ones that call names. Survivors insist the voices know them. They hear their names whispered from the fog, spoken in tones both tender and mocking. One sailor swore he heard his dead mother calling him home. Another heard the voice of his own captain, urging him to jump into the water. Those who obey are never seen again. Sometimes the voices shift into song. Low shanties that no living man recalls, verses half-sung, half-screamed, filled with words that taste like salt and blood. The rhythm of drums often follows, echoing from nowhere, matching the steady beat of cannons being prepared for war. The fog grows thicker then, pressing against the sails, seeping into the lungs, until men choke on it as though drowning in air. And then comes the ship. The Queen and's revenge looms out of the darkness, its black sails blending with the fog, its lanterns glowing with fire that spits embers into the mist. The voices fall silent, replaced by the groan of the cursed vessel itself. Some say the ship moans like a dying beast, its hull split with wounds that will never heal. Others insist it laughs, the timbers creaking in rhythm with a cruel, mocking mirth. It draws close without wind, its wake cutting against the current. And when it comes alongside, the fog shifts to reveal the crew. They do not shout. They do not sing. They only stare, hollow-eyed and dripping, their mouths opening in silence until water pours forth in endless streams. Hands rise from the fog, clutching at rigging, at arms, at throats. Cold, wet fingers that burn with the chill of the grave. The worst stories speak of men pulled below the surface of the fog itself. Not into the water, not into the sea, but into the fog. As though the mist were alive, a second ocean hung in the air. Men vanished screaming into the blackness, their bodies never recovered, their voices added to the chorus that haunts the next ship. In 1923, a coastal freighter disappeared off Beaufort Inlet during a routine run. Weeks later, fragments of the ship washed ashore, timbers scorched though no fire had been reported. Among the debris, fishermen found a single logbook sealed in tar. Its final entry described the fog. The captain wrote that it swallowed the stars, silenced the sea, and filled the air with whispers. He wrote that his crew fell to their knees, clutching their ears, screaming at voices no one else could hear. His last line, scrawled in shaky hand, read, "They are calling me now. The captain is waiting." The logbook reeked of salt and smoke, the ink smeared as if written in rain, though the pages were perfectly dry. To this day, locals claim the black fog still creeps across the waters on moonless nights. They say if you hear your name in the mist, do not answer, do not listen, do not look. For the moment you acknowledge it, the Queen Anne's revenge will find you. And when it does, you will not drown. You will join the voices that call the next man home. No tale of the Queen Anne's revenge ends without mention of its master. Blackbeard's body may have been cut down, his head spiked on the prow of a ship as proof of death. But every man who has seen the phantom vessel swears the captain still stands at its helm. He does not appear as he once was. Not the flesh and blood giant with fuses burning in his beard, pistols strapped to his chest, and a laugh that froze men colder than steel. No, the Blackbeard that haunts the waves is something else, something born not of man, but of the pact he made with the sea. They say he towers above the wheel, his form more shadow than substance, his body wrapped in smoke and brine. His beard still burns, glowing embers that drip sparks into the fog, hissing when they touch the wet planks. His eyes are not human eyes but coals, red and smoldering, staring endlessly into the dark horizon. Some swear he bleeds still, phantom wounds dripping water instead of blood, as though he carries his death with him across eternity. And when he moves, the ship itself obeys. The sails shift without wind, the wheel turns without touch, the lanterns flare with fire that feeds on nothing. The crew, those hollow-eyed wretches, do not look to one another for orders. They look only to him, their faces slack, their limbs jerking like puppets pulled by unseen strings. Those who have come too close say Blackbeard speaks, but not as a man. His voice is the roar of waves striking rock, the crack of thunder splitting the sky, the groan of timbers crushed by the deep. Yet somehow, the words are clear, drilling into the skull of every man who hears them. He offers a choice: join him in eternal service or be swallowed by the sea. No one refuses. Not truly. The ones who leap overboard, who fight to flee, who scream their defiance into the fog, they are dragged below all the same. And when the Queen Anne's revenge rises again on another night, their voices join the chorus in the black mist, calling out to the living, luring them closer. The legend says Blackbeard cannot leave because the debt was never paid. The sea gave him strength, gave him fearlessness, gave him a name that would never die. In return, it claimed not only his life but his eternity. His ship is his tomb, his curse, his throne. And until the ocean decides its bargain is fulfilled, the captain will never leave. There are those who believe the Queen Anne's revenge is not just a ghost but a warning. That it appears when the sea grows restless, when men dig too deep, when greed and arrogance tempt fate. A reminder that the ocean does not forgive, and that some treasures, some legends are better left buried. Even now, locals along the Carolina coast whisper of nights when the horizon glows red. Fishermen swear they've seen the phantom sails rising, the lanterns burning, the laughter echoing across the waves. And always the same words are whispered in fear. Blackbeard is still out there. The captain never left. And perhaps one night, when the fog rolls in and the voices call your name, you too will see him standing at the helm. His beard aflame, his eyes glowing, his ship cutting silently through the black waves. The Queen Anne's revenge waits, and its captain still sails.